Come on.
They're right there!
Let's go. Move, 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 move.
This episode of Choices Not Chances is sponsored by Louisiana Gun Shop, located in Broussard, Louisiana, just south of Lafayette. For more information, stay tuned at the end of this episode. This is Choices Not Chances podcast with Ryan and Matt. I'm your co-host, Matthew Charette. Sit next to me is your host, Ryan Rogers.
At 1440, I walked out of my hooch to conduct PCCs and PCIs, and I found the entire squad standing by for me, already inspected by the team leaders. I threw on my kit, and I proceeded to the first main line, Lance Corporal Rhodes, grinning from ear to ear. And before I read the rest of the excerpt out of the book, Rhodes was a calm Marine. He was attached to us to be the CO's personal calm guy.
Yeah.
So calm guru. The kid was probably 6'2", athletic build, always working out, always anxious to get after it. He's getting it after it in the gym. He's standing there getting it after it as he's on radio watching the COC. He's just an all-around good guy, and he became really good friends with our squad.
Yeah. And I don't know if he was good friends like when we weren't there, if he was really good friends with other squads. I would assume so. I mean,
yeah, I would assume he was the same.
Because I mean,
he really gravitated to us for some reason,
right.
though, and we were always engaged, maybe.
Yeah.
And so he could come by and trade like whatever good gouge he heard on the radio for, whatever we did that day. Yeah, and kind of live vicariously through us. Well, he'd asked us several times to go out, and that's kind of what we get into right here. And it's important to note that it was a while before that, shortly after we had first arrived at 5 Points, that myself and Sergeant at the time, Staff Sergeant, is Joey Harms. We would talk tactics at night, and even you included. I just remember. I don't remember the first night that we talked about it, but I know that it was at 5 Points, and I know that we were talking tactics because the Taliban at the time they had these little mopeds and like little go faster scooters, right? Go faster than we could walk anywhere or run, and they would hit us and then they would bound, and then they would hit us and then they would bound, and you could never catch them. It's not that you couldn't; it's just that we hadn't adapted to it yet.
Correct. And so, they don't care about human life, really, of the fighter, and we do. So we're not just going to run at them headlong without a tactic that's going to protect us. Right.
And so that's important just to note, because we had started to formulate these ideas about having a runner team. And you said you could remember maybe the first night or one of the nights that we had gotten into it at the smoke pit.
Yeah, I said, either you or Holmes, I don't know which one. One of y'all said, we just got to find a way to get at them. We can't catch them, And if you can catch them,
then you get them.
Then you could get them. But they're not hitting you at 50 meters. They're hitting you at 4 or 5, maybe 3 if they're feeling froggy that day, because they know.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, especially spread out there, but as the summer months came on, they started hitting us at much closer ranges, just out of necessity, because the foliage was so thick.
True.
By the canals, but still. They would have weapons, mortars, and little scooters ready to go, so they could, get the hell out of Dodge as soon as they'd hit us and, inflict some kind of damage on us and get our attention. And as soon as we turn the guns to them, they're 400, 500, 600 meters away in a couple of minutes.
And we can't touch them within that four, really, at that point. I mean, you can.
I mean, we touched them, but
it's a little bit harder.
And snipers. And so that's just kind of the setup here. So at 1440, I walked out of my hooch to conduct the PCCs and PCIs, and I found the team leaders already inspected them. I threw on my kit and proceeded to the first man in line, who was Lance Corporal Rose, grinning from ear to ear. I checked him over as I could feel his energy and excitement pouring out of him. He couldn't stop smiling the whole time I looked his gear over. He was ready. I asked him some mission-oriented questions about what to do if A, B, or C happens, and he answered all of them correctly. I spot-checked the rest of the Marines, knowing my team leaders had already been over each man and fixed the discrepancies, if any. With the squad ready to step, I conducted comm checks with the COC, and I requested to depart friendly lines to kill the enemy. The watch officer laughed a bit and cleared me to push out the east entrance into the bazaar. We would be going on patrol to the north on intel that a fight awaited. There was some suspicious activity flaring up to the north, where the Taliban had noticed and taken advantage of a small bubble of land in between our northern line and our AO and the British troops, and the British troops' southern line. So basically, our northern
limit
for our company battle space is where the southern limit for the British Marines north of us southern limit was. And because of deconfliction, like when you're going to go up there, you're going to have to not only deconflict our battle space, but now we got to call the Brits battle space and deconflict their air and their troop movement before we can move up. So, just geometries of fire really, and making sure that everybody involved in the situation knows exactly what's going on, so we don't have any blue on blue fire or anything like that.
And with our battle space, not including the Brits, it was always kind of easy to deconflict that, just because you've got one platoon on patrols. So out of that platoon, you're gonna have one platoon or one squad on rest, one squad on react, and the other squad's on patrol. So there's only one platoon out there. As long as everybody's communicating this, you're good to go.
Right.
But you do have to worry about the Brits to the north. And I don't even know who was to the south of us. Or it might have been 1-6.
It was 1-6.
Okay.
Some element of 1-6.
Right.
And so the deconfliction, we called it the bubble, and like it doesn't take the Taliban long to know where you're not going to come get them at.
They start building their area of operations to mimic your area of operations. But the only thing is, they don't care about deconfliction. They'll run across that line just as quick as if it gets them away from us. They will DD across that line
for sure. But like, there was a bubble. It was clearly like a 300-meter bubble where they knew they were safe, and they were brazen up there.
Yeah.
And then they would work down into the south and hit us and retreat to there. And then a lot of times they knew that we were going to follow them for whatever reason. They didn't know why, I'm sure, but we knew why.
They might have known why too. Yeah.
We get to a certain northing and command shut it down.
Yeah.
And for good reason. That's what we're saying. So we're moving out in this area and back to the book. I've been there before, and the rooftops were unique for the area. They were not all flat roofs like every other roof in the AO. They were domed. Each compound had 3 or 4 half moon shaped domes on top, which weren't ideal for covering a firefight. But they were better than the compounds with no roofs or for flat roofs. The domes were 24 to 36 inches of hard packed mud, just like the mud huts themselves, making them damn near bullet and rocket proof. Damn near. As we moved into the bazaar and once more to dance with the devil, the mood and calm of the atmospheric's normal. I always told Rhodes to stay right beside me unless I told him otherwise, or if he was told otherwise by one of the team leaders. As we patrolled out of the market, we opened way up into a staggered column and proceeded on. We had about a 3-click movement to make it to the OP compound, and then from there, we would observe the area for a bit before taking a route north and then west back to the COP. Easy day. The entire way, Rhodes was locked on, listening to everything that I was telling him and looking like a smooth operator. The only thing was, I could tell he was nervous. His smiles were gone and he was on edge. I kept cracking jokes to try to chill him down, and after a while it seemed like he settled in. As we moved through the poppy fields, which were now chiseled, we were now closing on a small village of about 15 or so interconnected compounds, somewhat spread out. It had been a trouble area before because we had used a bad crossing to create a bit of a choke point on the squad. Going off that lesson, I split out a satellite patrol with Corporal Charrette's team and to make the same crossing, and the rest of the squad continued a few hundred meters further down to the south to a canal that separated another crossing. Both elements were mutually supporting this way, and if one team was jammed up, the other could provide relief instead of being jammed up with them. The runners had less distance to cover, and Charette held the near side of the canal, awaiting my element to make our crossing. And it's important to note at this time, when talking tactics and talking about Joey Harms and me talking and making these tactics for having these runner teams, it became you being the leading person of the runner team in second squad. And so we had this idea of what it would be. We would establish contact with the enemy one way or another.
Right. They're probably gonna kick that big, but yeah.
Yeah, they're probably gonna kick it off through a cat hole or from some hiding space somewhere, which, more power to them, whatever. Once they kick it off, though, the tactic is to fix them with two teams and then sprint the runner team straight at them, basically under heavy suppression.
Which at that point, we didn't have the numbers to do that. We had basically effectively two teams. We had a team with an extra guy and my team.
Yeah, we had lost. Bennett was gone by then. Yeah. He had a Red Cross message home, I believe, and
Cola was gone.
Cola was gone. Macwood's gone. We did pick up Breland, so we got plussed up there one, but we were still down.
Brady.
We were still down some guys, and so.
So we were basically running a two team.
It's 2 teams. It's squad minus. We were all right.
Yeah, it was good.
And
actually, a little easier to control, a little bit faster to control too.
Yeah, the smaller. I mean, you don't want to lose firepower, but
a
couple guys. We
still maintained 3 stalls, so I mean, you still have.
We had the firepower,
right?
So right at the canal, there was always some sort of vegetation to use for concealment, like the cattails that had concealed us down south in the canal in different canals months earlier. He tucked in with his team and began to observe and report activity. There was nothing really off the baseline, and soon I had reached my crossing. We crossed together by echeloning in pairs and then reconstituted our formation to carry on. It was smooth. Just out of sight from the OP compound, the atmosphere began to change. Women and children were no longer out, and you could feel the cold eyes of death upon you. I radioed to everyone to stay alert, as if they were not already tracking, and the once relaxed 20-year-old boys that composed my squad postured up like the lions that they were, and the mood and tone shifted. It was always an eerie feeling, knowing that the enemy was watching you, but you had to get used to it. Continuing, we finally reached the OP. The point team conducted a near-side cordon, and Team 2 made entry into the house, clearing it. I chose the house because it had been abandoned in the push and no one ever moved back into it yet. Knowing that it was empty previously, I managed to move back into it again. Knowing that it was empty previously, I thought it better to not scare the locals and remove a family, even if it was only temporary. Sorry about that. In a counterinsurgency operation, it's important not to fuck that up and create more potential enemies in the process. Kind of a double-edged sword. You're here to help, and sometimes you hurt when you help. The some that you hurt turn against you, and at least empathize with the enemy in a stronger way. That's bad.
Keep rolling.
Check.
I got this.
Not to mention the compound gave a great unobstructed view of the crossing in which we wanted to watch, a crossing that we had been in a fight with weeks before. Team 3 quickly moved behind Team 2 and popped to the roof for overwatch. As the Marines secured the area from above, I popped to the top and got a sip of water from my camelback. I told Rhodes to stay on the ground and on ground level and report to me any significant action from the battalion TAC. He countered, wanting to come to the roof, but I told him no. We wouldn't be here very long, and it was an unnecessary risk. He gave up the fight fast and started to mingle with Charette and his team. I headed up. So once I get up to the top side of this building, I'm just going to fast forward a bit here. Once I get up to the top side of the building, we start to observe the enemy, and they're moving through a tree line, and they're kind of skirting through, like echeloning in twos, basically, staying spread out. And you could only see them once in a while, and I remember I hadn't even really seen them and gotten my eyes on them well before the first shots cracked out. Right. And I remember before that happened, Rhodes kept begging me, let me come up, let me come up, let me come up, let me come up. And I'm like, finally, I'm like, all right, drop the big antenna radio, bring your handheld up here, stand right beside me. Do not do anything crazy, whatever. Yeah. Because the captain told me before I left, if something happened to Rhodes, he was going to kill me. And I believed him when he said it. He didn't say it like he was kidding. And So the Rhodes is right beside me. We're doing well. Everything's fine. And then the roof exploded right in front of us. I mean, boom, 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 boom. They ran a rip right up beside us, and I seen the muzzle flash.
Yeah.
And as soon as they started ripping, Rhodes was so afraid to die, was so afraid that he jumped, but he was only had 6 inches where his toes were from those domes.
Not a smart idea.
So I reach back, I grab his flak, I pull him back up to me. I'm like, "Hey, call in the tips." I remember his eyes. He was so energized, and he said, "How do you stay so fucking calm?" And it's I'm not claiming to be no badass, but we've been doing this for 8 months every day, dude.
At that point, it's another day at the office, really. I mean, yeah, sound badass, whatever. You're desensitized to that.
Absolutely.
At that point.
Yeah, it's not. You're not saying that as a
You'll deal with the after effects later on. Trust me.
Yeah, and so it was it was interesting to me how that all went down and how scared he was. Given how the rest of the deployment took for him. So
I remember it just a little differently.
Okay. And I didn't even really tell about the runners. Why don't you cover that part?
So this is the way I remember it going down. There we were. No, I'm just joking. Y'all got in and posted up on the top of the roof, just like you said. We were almost in the compound.
Yeah, we were kind of overwatching your guys'
exactly because we had jumped off after you guys got set up and we were coming in. So I had my team, and they initiated contact with us 50 meters from. I remember the gate being big enough to get a truck in there.
Mm.
And one of the things that we had talked about, we had trucks. We were only 1,800 to 2,000 meters away from 608, and we had trucks shadowing our patrol, working east to west.
Yeah, that was that same group that we were talking about just a little bit ago.
Yeah, yep. And the thing was, I wanted to see fire over our heads with a Mark 19. That was one of my let's call it a bucket list.
One of the only things that we hadn't done.
Right. I mean, so that was the plan. Get contacted, button up, take a compound, wait for the trucks to basically, and it ended up being that, well, I'll tell the story. I come in the compound pissed because just got shot at. I'm still at that point where I'm a little pissed. And you're up on the roof and you said, "Hey, runner teams, go get up to that compound straight in front of us.
Get after it."
Or something along those lines.
Probably runners.
And I, with the biggest amount of disappointment in my voice, say, "What about the Mark 19s?" And you say, "We're too close to the enemy and too far away from the trucks."
Look, man.
Well,
it boils down to the fact that I was on the hook with trucks. And they're like, "Man, we want to shoot for you."
We can't. Yeah, no. Looking at it on the map later on that night, I was like, yeah, no, we can't do that. So we roll out of the compound. Wetzel, my point man, and the point man for the squad, he dives in a little ditch out in front of the thing and sits on some prehistoric pricker bush or whatever you want to call it. Cacti family. I don't know what it was.
A big ass thorn. We can call it a BAT, a bat.
He thinks he gets effectively hit because he's bleeding, not profusely, not like
enough
that.
Enough to get to his camis red though.
Enough to say, "Doc, get out here, come check Wetzel out." So now the runner team is like,
getting bogged down.
We got a little friction.
Yeah, and you guys didn't tell me about that.
And
we were fighting on the roof still when this was going down.
There was a little closet area on the outside of the house, so I don't know what it was used for, but I basically pushed those two in there. I want to say I had Grimes with me because you had Knuckles on the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Grimes, lay it down." His saw jams. This is just
awesome.
Excellent. I said, "You better dump a fucking bottle of CLP in that shit and we need to roll."
Yeah, time to
go. Doc's like, "It's a pricker bush." I said, "Good, Wetzel, get up." And then Wright was with us too. So we rolled up. There was
and there was a north and south running.
It was almost
like
set up
ditch.
for the runner teams. Like
that's why we sent it, baby. I was on the roof, and I don't know if you could see it from the ground or when you finally seen the ideal setup that you stumbled into.
Right.
But once I popped to the roof, like I was playing this in my head before we established contact. I'm watching you guys move over, and as I'm watching you guys move over, I trace up, and these guys are fucking dancing in the tree line, And I'm like, check, and I look, and it's just like God put it there for us. It was just a straight 2-foot ditch line,
and it had a good bottom, no water,
not flooded, not muddy, solid bottom, 2 foot of cover. So if you did take contact, boom, you're covered.
Right. Well, and actually, what
you're in a trench, but you're covered.
What I ended up doing was leaving Wetzel and Grimes at that little ditch in the front of the building, and me and Wright rolled up there real quick. I found a spot. I said, "Push it, Grimes, Wetzel, get your ass up here." They met us, and then we came around to the front of the building we were taking contact. 350, maybe 400 meters away. So we rolled it pretty quick.
Yeah, you guys closed the gap in like less than 2 minutes, but you were definitely hauling some serious ass. And that was the point of the runner team, though. The point was they're going to hit us thinking that we're going to sit here and bang with them for 15 minutes before we start to echelon.
Or we're going to try to get air on station, or we're going to try and call mortars. No, we're taking this as close as possible.
Correct. And so the runner team tactic was just, we're going to cover you with 2 machine guns and the rest small arms and we're going to cover you good. Like they're not popping up, but you're hauling ass all the way up there, and then you're fragging the compound and making entry as a team, and then we're sucking to you.
And actually, you broke it down you didn't break the roof, the overwash down, but you came down, and by the time I was about to hit the door, you were the one behind me, which I didn't even realize until I turned around. I turned around and kind of look, and I pointed to the grenade on my flak, and you gave me the nod, and I pulled it out, and I had the pin, and I listened, and then I heard kids crying inside, and I basically was like, well, that ain't going to work. I'll put it back away. And I remember that like it was this morning.
All in all, the tactic worked. We were on them. We got on them, and we did get them.
Actually, I remember before we made entry, too, there was 2 guys on a moped, and we smoke checked them.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. We closed enough distance, and then they're like, oh, shit, they're here. And good on you for not throwing that grenade, because I still wanted you to throw that grenade that day. I didn't hear them. I was confused as I didn't hear shit after this is
well, and you're on the roof, and you're.
I want to say this is after the mortars incident where we were in Charlie Echo with the other squad. And I had some 82s fall down, and after that, my ears were completely blown. I mean, I didn't hear much after that. And so the fact that you heard that, had the discipline to put that back away.
Don't even know how I heard it. I just know.
And it's crazy, but it worked. And there was two or three. I think there was 2 or 3 youngins in there, and they're all freaked out because, and the whole family's crying because, well, this Taliban dude, this pair just shows up, probably slaps them around a little bit, tells them to get in the corner, and then they're fighting us.
Right. And we're not giving them any slack,
No, yeah, and we were laying it on. We were pouring it on thick. And
so disappointed about the guns, though. The Mark 19, so disappointed.
So we pick up right here in the book, stuttering and fumbling over his words, he asked, "How do you guys stay so calm?" Everyone that heard him laughed, and we continued to lay into the enemy. Charette had changed up his plan. He took an advantageous position on the right flank of the enemy, 200 meters in the ditch. I popped yellow smoke on the roof of the building and requested fires from the gun trucks. Before long, the yellow smoke was billowing, and I can hear Charette's team taking shots. As they had eyes on the enemy, that would have been where
I had the stopping point with me and Wright.
Where you were at the stopping point. And did you drop the guys on the moped there, or was it after I got up with you?
It was when I rounded the corner.
So before I came up, you guys put those guys down. That's what this part's about right here.
Also, another important aspect, and this was the only time I remember it happening. As soon as they initiated, air went red. Remember we were talking about that earlier. That was when I was like, that was why I was so pissed, because
it's like, don't get hurt now.
I said they waited until they knew air was going to go red, and they waited because the storm was chasing us. If I remember right,
It wasn't that bad of one, but yeah, I remember.
No, but it was bad enough that they, like the whole time the patrol was going on, the air was yellow, and we pushed anyways, and then air went red, and it wasn't like a sandstorm. There was just low visibility.
Something was too much in the air. Yeah. So as the runners are moving, the corporal with the trucks cracked over the comm asking if it was good. I responded with, "Who's on the Mark 19?" Upon hearing that, he told me that it was Longshore, and I was elated. I called to Charette that it was a change of plan, and he took up an advantageous position on the right flank of the enemy, 200 yards out of the ditch. I popped yellow smoke on the roof of the building. I was requesting fires from the trucks. Before long, the yellow smoke was billowing, and I could hear Charette's team taking shots as they had eyes on the enemy. They continued to push up the wadi, at which point I left Knuckles' team in place on the roof and left to link up with Charette. And that wasn't part of the plan.
No, for you to get down and come meet.
It was, and
eventually, but
when you consolidate
on the objective.
Yeah, not by myself traversing 300 meters, but the further you guys got away from me, and then I heard you taking shots, and you're calling out shots over the radio, and I'm like, I'm a squad leader, and my job in a rifle squad is to be at the
point of friction,
the point of most friction, and right now I have a team in way more friction than I am. So I looked over at Knuckles, and I was like, hey, you got it. When I tell you to roll it up, you come straight to me. And I got down off the roof, and I hit that ditch, and I dug until I caught you. Yeah. And 300 meters later, I was smoked.
It's a good ditch for it, though.
I was smoked. Yeah, great ditch. I was smoked. So then I catch up with you. They continue to push up the wadi, at which point I left Knuckles in place on the roof, and I left to link up with Charette. Upon link up, we stacked for entry, and Charette held up his frag. I gave the head nod, and he prepped to throw. Just before tossing his grenade, he heard children inside the compound. Tucking his frag away, we made entry. We found multiple firing positions with suspended shell casings and linkage. The enemy had bugged out, but the runner team had been successful. We RTB'd and encountered no resistance in the process. With roads safe back in the wire, I felt like the CO might not want to kill me anymore. I finished my debrief and I hit the shower. I met with Harms and his hooch afterwards and discussed the day's events and how we used the runners. We talked late into the night about how to better kill the enemy before turning in. And shout out to the Harms family, and rest in peace to Joey Harms. He's a war dog, one of the best that I've ever served with, and taken too early, far too early, before his time.
Just a great Marine, all around, very humble and very knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah. I mean, he knows this. I made sure I told him this as he started to get sick, and I had seen him over there at Wounded Warrior Battalion, and he's doing a golf outing kind of thing, and I'd seen him, and I said, hey, just so you know, between me and you, man, I always looked at you as a mentor, and you helped me a lot more than you probably know. And Joey passed away a couple of years ago from cancer, and gone too soon for sure. So shout out to you, big dog, wherever you were at. We're going to make the legend live on. And
keep looking down on us, brother.
Yeah, so that was Roads and Runners. And
that was one of my favorites. Like, seriously, one of the, like, it just was. And by the way, I wasn't nervous about being. I know you're the squad leader. You got to be at the point of friction, but I wouldn't have an issue.
No, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna not be in my position. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna.
By the time I got up there, I was so pissed and winded. It didn't matter.
Yeah, and that might be why I didn't hear anything either, because I sprinted that 300 meters without stopping to get to you, and I got there and I'm like, and you hold up a frag and I'm like, okay,
whatever you got to do,
whatever we got to do, buddy. I'm ready.
And I hadn't thrown one yet. It was like a day of letdowns.
But thought we were going to get overhead fire from Mark 19. Thought we were going to get through some frags.
I didn't even get to get up on the roof.
So lesson learned in this one for sure. If you are operating either in capacity for the federal government or in your own private contract capacity, you got guys like this that are out there and they're using your rules and your gear against you and things of that nature. Just you got to outsmart them.
And don't be afraid to bring it up to other to subordinates or your equals or whatever.
As many people as you can bring it up to, you should be bringing it up to. And if you find something that works, then you need to disseminate that information to everybody as quickly as possible. There can be no parochial attitudes and competition and infighting when we're over there in the suck doing this stuff.
And not only
anything
in combat,
that works need to be passed on.
In business as well. I mean,
anything, any best practices that you can pass on.
We do it all the time,
and that's the whole point. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to be a conduit of information, of lessons learned, and don't do this because didn't work, and do this because this did work, and that.
But also at the same time, use it as a guideline, not as a rule.
No, absolutely. You can't get stuck on it because it's a fluid environment. Any combat situation is going to be a fluid environment. Like when the enemy's getting killed, they're going to do different things to not get killed anymore. And then we have to adapt so that we can kill them more.
Right.
And it's a tit for tat back and forth all through the battle space for whatever period of time you're there. And then, guess what? You come home, and let's say the op tempo side, like it was, early on in the war, and you're home for 7 and back. You're like, well, I was only gone 7 months. Guess what? It's a whole new world, baby.
Done.
7 months, it doesn't matter. You have to relearn everything. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. The RIP-TOE process, which is
we can roll right into it, bro.
Yeah, so the RIP-TOE process is acronym for Relief in Place Transition of Authority. And that's simply saying, okay, like my oncoming unit that is relieving me is coming in inbound, and we're going to give them what we call a left seat, right seat transition, which means the left seat, I'm still driving as the squad leader in 3-6, and 2 non-squads come in, or their main element doesn't come in, but their key leaders come in, let's say. And so 3 squad leaders in LT,
and they had team leaders from the APLs from each squad too.
Yep. So the squad leader and APL from each squad comes in, and then they get paired up with us, and then we show them the battle space for 6 or 8 days, or more. It's really on their request. But in our situation, our relief wanted a quick changeover. We gave it to them, and
the changeover was.
Our changeover was a bit different.
Yeah,
we got a bit different.
We got a special name for it.
So, so the last operation that 2nd platoon did, well, it wasn't the whole platoon. It was 2 squads reinforced. It would have been our squad and JT squad, which was 3rd.
Yep.
And
plus, section of mortars and
we had
sections of machine guns.
We had
1 section.
We had a section of mortars, and we had 1 squad of machine guns.
Yep.
We had 2 guns with us.
Yep.
And so 2 squads reinforced attachments. We also took EOD with us. We also took engineers with us. We also had ICOM chatter Marines with us up on those ops. And in the 5-day war especially, I know that most of our missions was to take EOD to bridges to blow them in the backyard of the Taliban. And so
I don't know how I forgot about that, because that was a pretty hairy one.
Yeah, and
not so much as contact, it was just a hairy situation.
Well, I mean, it was one of those situations where we had relief coming in, and we're about to have, a lot of Marines getting off a lot of birds.
Yep.
And
push out the boundaries.
We want to shut them down, and not to mention we were going to push up on that op, and we were going to close that northern bubble with the Brits, and we're going to get right in their backyard and blow all of their bridges and make them fight us. And that's exactly what we did.
Yep.
We pushed out at like 02, 03 in the morning under the cover of darkness. 2 squads reinforced.
Straight up top.
And we didn't go up in a mass. We split. So we took our element one way. I believe it was 2 Bravo with the other squad, section machine guns, mortars. He carried the guns and stuff with him. And then we made our way up, and we had a pre-planned OP building that we were going to take. And we were going to just operate out of a patrol base for 5 straight days and just really get after them. And we got up there with no problem. The evolution up went smooth. We got into the compound, no problem.
Yep.
That went smooth.
Yeah,
we even had a post built before the sun came completely up. That went smooth. And our squad, my squad, was on the first patrol out. And that did not go smooth. It might have went smooth in the beginning. And then we blew some bridges up, and things started to get spicy in the battle space.
Hit that one?
Yeah, I mean, we just went up there and we did what I was talking about. We went up and we got after it. We found them. We found their backyards. We blew their bridges up, and they began to shoot at us profusely. I remember after the first day, we were up there and we fought for 2 or 3 hours, and some of the boys were out of smokes. I think you in particular needed yourself a pack of Mile 88s or Pines.
Pines.
And, Pines. And so we knew that there was a small bazaar, cigarette shop bazaar, that we could kind of finagle our way by on the way back from this gunfight. And so, like I said, we had ICOM Shadow Marines there, and here we are, we're working back, and we're in the bazaar, and the guys are like just doing a real quick up and back to get some smokes. And I don't know if it was 2 Bravo or Herps. I think it was 2 Bravo called in, and they're like, "Hey, ICOM Shadow Marines are saying they got eyes on a Marine patrol close to a bridge in a bazaar." And I was like, "I'm on a bridge looking at the bazaar buying cigarettes."
They're looking at you.
And I remember, you think afterward, you think when you come home, like, how many times was I doped in? How many times he had the reticle ray on my face and for whatever reason, shot and missed or didn't shoot. And that was one of those days that we knew 100% they were looking at us. And so, everybody got, their posture up and excuse me. Excuse me. Everybody postured up and it was like, okay, it's time to bang. And the whole walk back, nothing happened. Yeah. And I mean, you could have heard a pin drop. Everybody's butthole. I mean, you couldn't get a 10 penny nail in there with a sledgehammer.
Pucker factor at 10.
Yeah, and that was pretty wild. So we get back from that, and that other squads are going to be going kicking out patrols.
Yeah, we're taking over posts.
Getting our guys on post. Yep.
2 things. One, the tactic of us rolling up early morning, taking over a compound, post built before the sun even comes up.
And post built because we took every man carried like 5 sandbags in his sappy plates under his sappy plates on the way up there, so we could build our own post. Yeah.
That tactic was always like, you get up there and you're just in their face like, yeah, motherfucker, come shoot at me.
Yeah,
just please. we've hardened ourselves, and bring your bitch ass down here and let us fucking take you and send you to 72 virgins. Seriously.
Yeah.
And
they did.
Yeah.
They did, and we obliged. For 5 straight days, we banged with those dudes.
Because that wasn't the first day. That wasn't the first op we had used that tactic. There was the time we went up to support the Brits on a blocking position. We did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We did it on a census op over to the east, northeast. And, yeah, they always did not like that. They would fight us hard.
Yeah, they get mad. They were big mad about it a lot of times. I mean, we'd post up right in their back door. I mean, put our flag up and put our post up and put our guns up and say, "Hey, this is ours now." And then they would come unglued.
You're disrupting their freedom of movement, and they don't like it, and that's what we're there to do, like I said before.
Yeah, and that's the other thing with the bridges. That's the whole point. Is okay, we're going to go up here and destroy their freedom of movement and their freedom in these rat line bridges that they're using to reinforce this bubble. And at the same time, I didn't mention it, but the Brits closed down on their southern bubble.
Yeah. So
while we're doing that, we just squeeze the shit out of them.
Yep.
And that was a wild op out of 2 squads. I mean, we had stories for days in the books. I mean, I talk about one story where another squad was in contact, and our 60mm mortarmen used a handheld conventional mode and used Corporal Herbst at the time. Used him as an aiming stake, and he was showing the guy how fast the moped was moving, and the moped was bailing out after ambushing a squad, and we got pitted on him. And they literally dropped that. I go into it in detail in the book, but they dropped down that 60, and it fired. Boom! And he set the charge, and he said, 30 seconds. And we're down 5 seconds. And I didn't get down because I'm like, nope, I'm seeing this one.
Right.
And I'm holding up, and I'm holding up, and I'm holding up. And I'm not looking through my RCO, but I'm right over the scope so I can get in the RCO as soon as I need to. And I'm watching the guy come. Here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes, here he comes. And as soon as he gets like 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, the man disappears in the plume.
Nice.
It literally, the plume goes, whoa, whoa, and he was gone. And
burned up motorcycle.
I remember looking at stats on right and being like, you think we need to go do a BDA on that one? Or can we call that in one enemy good firing? And
I think they did that for the MLG 32 or whatever, that freaking shot.
That was a different day, same op. That was like the next day after the 60s, and
he did that a couple times.
Well, that was us pinned down for that one, and I go into that one in the book because that was a good buddy of mine, Scott Davis, Corporal Davis, and him and Herbst were back at the patrol base with 3rd Squad and 2 Bravo, And we had went out, and literally as soon as the point man Wetzel walked around the corner, we were gonna take the exit out the right, and they ripped it.
Then I pulled Wetzel back around the corner.
Yeah, you grabbed
Wetzel was the only one. I was like, really? You're not going to let me get around the corner?
Yeah, they literally were waiting on somebody to come around that corner.
I think they were just pissed and wanted a target at that point.
Well, that was close.
Yeah.
They barely missed him. So it was fast.
I tore some part of his camis when I ripped him back around that corner. I ripped him so hard. And he's like, really, Corporal? You're gonna rip my frogs?
Yeah, and so you rip him around the corner, and it was like, the op is still going on, about face, and we went out the left entrance.
We went out behind the compound and went the other way.
Yeah, and so we get a little ways on that one, and I get a call back from Knuckles. Come over the squad internal gear. Yo, Sergeant Rogers, I got a spotter. I'm like, Roger that. 2 Bravo got a spotter. Gonna take him down. Roger, hit him. So I'm waiting on Knuckles to hit him. I'm waiting.
The whole squad's waiting at this point.
And we took a knee, we got down, pruned out, like he's spotting us. He's probably got a team watching us.
Right.
Or setting up an L-shaped ambush on us or something else, right? And so finally, after what seemed like forever,
finally,
you hear it go off. I'm like, God damn, Knuckles, what took so long? Comes back with, I had to get in a seated position. I have killed people in the standing. I have killed people in the kneeling. And I wanted to use the seated. So he literally got down in a rifle range seated position with bone and elbow support in the crotches of his knees. He took his long, deep breath and at his natural respiratory pause.
And at that point,
he engaged with a nice center mass chest shot.
Yeah.
And we only know this because then that Afghan Taliban commander traveled to our outpost and seeked out triage from our corpsman.
Yep. I think he expired.
Yeah, definitely.
Right there,
he didn't make it too far. He didn't make it too far at all. So, and all the while on we had that was during the rip, the right. Yeah, that was during the left seat. We had 2 9s key leaders with us, and I mean, you talk about coming in, and this is your very first operation as a key leader. You're going, oh boy,
way to rip and tow this.
But they did, they fared well for what they got into on their first op.
They didn't have that. I don't know how their workup went in the States, but they didn't have that workup from the initial.
Yeah, check. And so that was our left seat, showing them the battle space and that kind of stuff. Well, getting back to the 6-shooter story.
That's right.
Getting back to the 6-shooter story, yeah. So Scott Davis and Herbst and the rest of 3rd and 2 Bravo, ICOM, they're all back at the compound. Now we're out. We averted the close call off the right side. We're moving up this wadi to the left. And we find ourselves in a really nice compound. And we make our way to the roof, and now we have, we're full rooftop coverage and access.
We had been in that compound before from one of our patrols. And it was just a night. We knew about the compound, had swept it multiple times. There was never anything in there. I think we swept it again when we went into entry with the metal detectors, maybe. I don't know. And then because it was kind of a waypoint for us. We knew where we were.
Yep, it was something we had plotted. It's something that we had planned. Had something that we had used before, and so we moved in there. And atmospherics went crazy. We had, military age males spotting us actively on the phones, peeking out, looking at us, peeking back in, peeking out, looking at us, peeking back in. And so we're keeping eyes on that, rogering that up to 2 Bravo. And the way I rogered that one up, because there were so many of them, I didn't want to. It's not that I didn't want to engage first, but I wanted to find out how many more they had, because there was a bunch of them scurrying about.
Where are they going to try and draw us?
Right, and is this too obvious? And so we kind of remained fire disciplined on that one. And remember, I had guns on the roof. I also had grenadiers on the roof. You, I believe, were ready with a grenade in the breech, a 40 Mike, and I know I took point. And Grimes, I took Wetzel and Grimes, and I believe Wetzel went across first, and Wetzel went across first, posted up Grimes on my side, and he had the saw, and I posted him up in the ditch with the saw on the road, and I said, now when this goes down, they're going to be on that road, and I want you to hit them all. And he's like, all right, so I rogered up 2 Bravo. I'm like, hey, I'm about to get ticked. And it was inevitable. You knew it was happening. They were moving into position. There were spotters everywhere, MAMs everywhere. We hadn't seen a gun yet. but we were trying to feel them out, and we knew that we were getting in a fight with that group of people. And so when we called it up, it was like, hey, this is about to go down, and this is the tree line that they're in. And just stand by for contact. And basically at that point, it was just 2 Bravo Roger standing by for contact. He's ready to employ some.
What do you want from me?
Yeah, he's ready to employ some weapon systems, right? And and sure enough, I think just as I moved across the road to get on Wetzel's side of the road, we were echeloning by ones at this point. And just as I went to go across, they ripped it. And then Grimes ripped his right back at him, barking. And then 2, 3, 4 M203 grenades come into the compound from our roof. And now our guns are barking and we're talking. And instantly back at the cop, they were like, oh, they're in it. They weren't joking. And that's the tree line the enemy's in. And all I hear is over squad internal, over the black ear, I heard Corporal Herbst get on the line and say, yo, Rogers, get low. Scotty's got the thumper. You got 6 coming in hot. And so Scotty had picked up the Mark 32, Mark 34?
Mark 32, I think.
32. And it's basically it's a 6-shooter for 40 mics.
First patrol. Well, it was the first patrol they came on where he had it, or anyone had it for that matter.
Well, I think Scott carried a lot in his patrols.
Yeah,
in his squad. But for us, we didn't ever carry one, but it was a nice piece of equipment that day.
Oh, yeah.
Because we hunkered down. We're fighting the enemy. And you could hear him come out. We weren't but 300 meters from the cop. That's why he could engage still.
Right.
With the 203, and all you heard was doom, 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 and you stood by, and here they come right down into the tree line. Doom, 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 doom.
Yeah, they were dead on with that.
And then he loads 6 more. Doom, 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 boom, 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 and after that,
quiet.
The battle space went quiet, and then we had to do BDA, which sucked.
Yeah.
Got called up. Hey, they're all gone. How many? You want me to go look? Sure do, Roger. And you get up there and you find like some jammed up weapons. I think we found some blood that time and some shell casings because they had to get them out of there quick. But, after we got up 300 meters up, they're already blown out of there.
No, we're on our teams that time.
Yeah. So, and that was a wild time. And the 5-day war just continued that way. There's another part that I go in great detail in the book. We did a squad Australian peel, a little Aussie peel. And
that was the last firefight.
Yeah,
right there.
We Aussie peeled for close to 200 meters from a compound to another compound. It was the most proud dad moment a squad leader could ever have because we hadn't trained it, we hadn't done it, never used it. I'm not going to say we hadn't trained. We just hadn't trained it in a long time.
It's not like we were doing it every day. I mean, but it's a great tactic. It is a.
I don't know that I ever trained it or practiced it with this squad ever because of how late in the workup I came in.
We might have done it once or twice in country, just
short ones. But on this one, we had an east and west running canal, and
and when you think about 200 meters, the amount of people we had on that patrol, I mean, that's basically what you need
for everybody to take
to get in that line, and I mean, I started picking up, and me, Wetzel, and Wright were the first 3 on the base or the pivot, area,
Yeah.
Because we sat down because we were the first 3 out the corner.
Yeah, y'all sat down
so angry.
And then
I did not want to get in that ditch.
We started moving. I think right before we started moving, I called out that we were going to do a peel. And we had to get to the left of the enemy because they were trying to cut us off from our reinforcements and from our PB. Yeah. And they were good that day.
And we had already fought for 4, 5, 6 hours at that point.
I don't remember how long it was, but it was
that was when we had the watermelons.
Yeah.
When we were at the 9-2 and they engaged the British area of operations, Taliban engaged us over the 9-2.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then we went over to that mosque where that girl was flipping.
The feta bread.
Mosque. It was a house near a mosque, and the call to prayer came up, and that's when things got hairy.
Got a little spicy.
And then we got in a muddy, flooded field, and I had the way I came in was the way I was going out, boy.
So we Aussie peel out. I think I engaged with a law rocket on some reinforcing enemy, and then we started the peel.
And you knew better than to ask me to
carry the tube back. Check.
Because you were actually
still salty about the law.
Still salty.
10 years, 11 years, and you're still salty about the laws. We Aussie peel out of there. We RTB back, and then...
And actually, 2 Bravo was with us for that one.
He sure was. He sure was. And yeah, man, wild day. So that pretty much was it. The 5-day war comes to a conclusion. 2 9 squad leaders and team leaders get a real nice break in.
Yeah.
And then the left seat happens. So then our key element flies out on the birds that their key element flies in on. And now it's myself and LT that are doing right seat, which means now we're in the passenger seat with their squad. And that's I don't care who you are. Yeah, it's Marines. It's you relieving Marines. But when you've been doing this and in it for 8 months with your squad, and now you're running with guys that you don't know, and you don't know in that environment, that's nerve wracking. I remember doing the last couple of patrols with, I believe it was Sergeant Soto, who came in and I was ripping with, and man, that first couple of patrols for them was rough. And I'm not saying anything about the training or anything like that. I'm not trying to, I'm calling a spade a spade. I took them out. They couldn't navigate to the patrol house without help.
The OP?
The OP, I gave them the grid, and they missed it by 500 meters.
It's right on the road.
I understand that. And then so we get in there, and I'm like, hey, it would be a good time for you to, go ahead and call in a loom mission. Get it under your belt. It might be jacked up. Your guns just took over. Your command's just taken over the firing line. Go ahead and spin yourself a mission. This is a great field that they'll move weapons through. And I was just giving them like the down low on that area. This is what we do here. We post up in this very building once every couple of months, and we bust their heads when they're trying to move weapons. And you're going to need loom for that. And you're going to need loom. It's better to practice this loom mission now and fuck this one up than when you need immediate suppression in a month when I'm gone.
Right.
And so he did, and he was very humble and very, all right, yeah. He didn't know, he couldn't do it off the top of the rip. He had to write his missions down and stuff like that, which we hadn't done in months, or I hadn't done in months. And yeah, man, it was just real slow. I think it was 38 minutes before we got loom rounds in the air. And it involved like me and LT, I think, grabbing the hook and being like, hey, what is going on? Thank God they don't need real rounds,
Right,
And it wasn't all the gun line, but at one point it became like the COC and the gun line were not making this happen the way it was supposed to, because they were asking questions about who was calling things, and it was like, hey, guess what? I'm out of the wire. Fire the damn round. I told you I needed loom 38 minutes ago. Fire the round right now.
And it's not like loom is going to come down.
And I didn't say it. I don't think I said it so rude, but I think I told him like, hey, like this is getting a little ridiculous. Sergeant Rogers, like, I understand you don't know who I am, but this is 38 minutes. Get a round in the air, please. We're trying to look at something. And finally, one round comes, and told him, hey, let's get another round. How do we do that?
Adjust.
What's the one thing you don't say unless you want it to happen?
Repeat.
Yeah. And, so I go through this whole thing with him, and I just remember the whole. And you remember, he probably gonna like me saying this, but LT, when he was nervous, he had I'll say nervous. Maybe it wasn't nervous. Maybe it was he experienced discomfort in other people's discomfort in other people's decisions. Let's say that he would look at you right like this, wide-eyed, looking right at the top of his eyebrows, like, are you seeing what I'm saying? Are you feeling
what
I'm feeling?
Yo, what is going on?
Like, yo, Charles Rogers, let me get a minute. He's like, yeah, what's up, sir? Yo.
What are they doing right now?
Yo, when this goes bad, we're breaking straight south to we're breaking straight south to the road. Diddy now, we got 6 clicks to move. Keep up.
And he's going to do 6 clicks in 2 minutes or something stupid.
He's going to do 11 miles an hour on average the whole way back.
And you can be like, I'm not keeping up with him.
No, man.
Lost Marine Planet.
Anyway, guys, that's it. That's the book wrap. That's the lines of Marjah. And please, you're going to have to go out and you're going to have to get your own copy of this to get all the extra details inside. It's gotten great reviews from Marines. It's gotten great reviews from Marine wives. It's got great reviews from other service members, family members, and saying that they at least get a little bit of the grasp of what's going on. You can check that out on Amazon.com. You can check all of our information, our writing contest and everything, as we said, and every episode on our Facebook page, on our Instagram, and on our Twitter, and those are at Choices Not Chances Podcast. This is Ryan and Matt signing off, guys. Thanks.
How we doing, everybody? This is the co-host of Choices Not Chances podcast, Matthew Charette. As mentioned in the beginning of the show, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Louisiana Gun Shop. The folks at Louisiana Gun Shop have been a longtime supplier of firearms and shooting supplies and services, as well as very good friends of mine. One day, we will get the owner and founder, Harlan Boblet, on the show. At Louisiana Gun Shop, the sky is the limit when it comes to getting the firearms and accessories you want for your current or future firearms. They have a nice selection of handguns, rifles, and shotguns in stock, or can order just about any firearm you could want or need. They specialize in concealed carry handguns and custom AR-15 builds. In addition to firearms, they also carry ammo, suppressors, optics, and a wide variety of gun parts for the upgrade and maintenance of your firearms. If you want to get further into the upgrade side of things, they provide customization services such as Cerakote, laser engraving, and Kydex holsters. So like I stated before, Louisiana Gun Shop is located on Highway 90 West in Broussard, Louisiana, just south of Lafayette. It used to be Louisiana Gun Shop did not have an online presence, but now I am happy to announce that their website is up and ready for business for online sales to all 50 states at louisianagunshop.com. Louisiana Gun Shop also offers Louisiana residents concealed carry classes for a very reasonable price. Harlan's experience in the concealed carry space when it comes to the laws and the do's and the don'ts is pivotal in attaining your Louisiana concealed carry license. As well as the firearm market, Harlan also conducts explosives training for Louisiana blasters licenses for oil field and special effects workers in Louisiana. Workers in these fields from out of state will also need to have their training in this field to complete their work in Louisiana. So whether you need a firearm, upgrade your old firearm, targets and ammo for a range day, or you just like to talk to people who support the Second Amendment, Louisiana Gun Shop is your place, either in person or online. Remember, they are located on Highway 90 West in Broussard, Louisiana, just south of Lafayette, or online at louisianagunshop.com. You can also follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Louisiana Gun Shop. A special thanks to Harlan and Jenny at Louisiana Gun Shop for sponsoring the show. Please support them so they can support us and keep the podcast free for all. Thanks, have a great day, Semper Fi, and God bless America.
Not too far. You're marking the building. Hit him. Yeah, that's good. That's a good shot. That's money. Yeah. Money.